People said she was just a ghost in the hallway. She sat on the old wooden bench near the back wall of the military rehab center. Every morning she came early, and every evening she left quietly, like smoke fading into the sky. Her name was Mira. No one knew her full story. No one asked. They just saw the way she walked, bent slightly forward, wearing the same worn-out green jacket, and carrying a silence so heavy that even strong men avoided it. She looked like a forgotten soldier. Her boots were scratched, her hair tied in a messy bun. One sleeve of her jacket was torn. Her face had small scars, and her eyes, they were always watching, but never speaking, like they had seen too much, and said too little for too long. Some of the young soldiers whispered about her. "She's crazy," they said. "Washed up," said another. "She probably failed in battle." Someone laughed, but they only whispered, because there was something about Mira, something that made people uneasy. She never replied to the jokes. She never looked angry. She just sat, sometimes helping the old veterans with their tea, sometimes pushing a wheelchair when a nurse was busy, but always quietly, like she didn't want to be seen, or maybe like she had been seen too much in the past. Only one person tried to speak to her. His name was Aaron, a 22-year-old trainee with a kind heart and curious eyes. He had seen Mira many times while others looked away. He looked closer one morning. Aaron sat near her on the bench. "Good morning," he said. She nodded once. He tried again the next day, then the next. Slowly, Mira began to reply. Just a few words. "Morning. Rain today. Too much noise." Aaron noticed the strange emblem on her jacket. It was not like any regular army badge. It had a circle with wings inside the circle. There was a number, but half of it was faded. He had never seen anything like it. One day he asked, "What does that emblem mean?" Mira looked at him for a long time. Then she said softly, "It's from a place that doesn't exist anymore." Aaron smiled awkwardly. He wanted to ask more, but something told him not to, so he just sat beside her. Day after day, rain or shine, one night, while cleaning the locker area, Aaron found Mira's locker door slightly open. He didn't mean to look, but something caught his eye. A small medal and broken in half. It had the same emblem. He picked it up carefully and placed it back. But that night, he couldn't sleep. What kind of soldier gets a medal no one recognizes? Why is she here, forgotten like a shadow? Back at the center, Mira walked past groups of chatting officers and laughing nurses. No one greeted her. She didn't expect it. Respect was something long gone, replaced by whispers and blank stares. But Mira didn't come here for attention. She came here for something else. To wait for what? Even she wasn't sure anymore. Sometimes, at night, she dreamed of gunfire, of mountains covered in smoke, of voices on radios that suddenly went silent. She would wake up sweating, then sit on the bench outside until the sun rose. Her past was heavy, too heavy to carry alone, so she never spoke of it. She let the world believe what it wanted, that she had failed, that she had broken under pressure, that she was useless now. But hidden in her jacket, stitched near the heart, was a piece of cloth, worn and almost invisible. The same emblem, a circle with wings, and a number that once meant everything. She touched it sometimes, not to remember, but to remind herself that she was still alive, that she had survived something no one else had, something so secret that even now she couldn't say its name out loud. The others may have called her a washed-up soldier, but she knew the truth was buried deep, and one day someone would see the emblem and remember. Whispers are louder than screams when no one tells the truth. Inside the military rehab center, rumors moved faster than medicine. They floated from one mouth to another like invisible fire. And in the center of that fire was one silent name. Some said she had betrayed her team. Others believed she was kicked out for a mental breakdown during war. A few swore she was part of a mission that ended in total failure, but no one knew for sure. No one had proof, only stories told in hushed voices behind closed doors. "She's the one from the failed ops in the North Zone," said an older officer. "No, she was in that ghost mission and the one nobody talks about," whispered a nurse. "I heard she saw something she wasn't supposed to," added another. But Mira never reacted. She walked through the rehab center, like a faded shadow, helping silently, listening without comment and waiting for something no one else could see. Aaron, the young trainee who had spoken to her first, still sat near her. Sometimes his curiosity had only grown stronger. He couldn't understand why someone like Mira, calm, disciplined, always alert, was treated like a discarded file in a forgotten drawer. One evening, Aaron asked another officer about her. "What's her full name?" The officer shrugged. "Just Mira. She doesn't have a last name in our records. No ID." "Nope. Classified, they say." "Classified?" Aaron repeated, confused. The officer just laughed and walked away. The next day, Aaron brought Mira a coffee again. She accepted it with a nod. "Thanks," she said. Then there was silence. Aaron didn't mind. He was starting to learn that with Mira, silence had weight. It wasn't empty. It was full of things she could not say. "Did you really serve in the North Zone?" Aaron finally asked. Mira turned to him slowly. Her eyes locked on his for a moment longer than usual. Then she looked away. "I served where I was told to serve," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly as she sipped her coffee. Later that week, something strange happened. A retired officer named Malik came to visit the center. He walked with a limp and carried a folder full of old maps he had once worked in operations. As he sat near the entrance, his eyes landed on Mira. He stared. Not in a rude way, but in a shocked, frozen kind of way. Then he stood up and walked toward her. "Mira?" he said. She looked up. She didn't speak, but she didn't look surprised either. "I thought you were dead." Malik whispered. Aaron, who was nearby, froze in place. Mira only replied, "You weren't supposed to see me again." "I didn't think I ever would," he replied. Before Malik could say more, a nurse gently pulled him away. "Your appointment is ready, sir," she said. He nodded and limped off, but kept looking back at Mira. Aaron couldn't stop thinking about what he had heard. What did Malik mean? Why did he think she was dead? That night, Aaron went into the restricted file section. He had access to some lower-level military reports for training. He typed Mira nothing. He typed Project Echo Dust, a term he had once heard in whispers from a technician. Access denied. But that phrase, Echo Dust, stuck in his mind. It sounded like something from a war movie. Not real life, but Mira was real, and the look in Malik's eyes was real fear. Real guilt. Aaron began writing everything down in a notebook. Names, dates, little pieces of puzzle scattered around a story. No, one wanted told the next morning. He saw Mira sitting in her usual spot. She looked tired, more tired than usual. He sat beside her. "I saw the man who thought you were dead," he said. She nodded slowly. "We were in the same unit once," she replied. "What happened?" he asked. Mira closed her eyes. Her hands gripped the edge of the bench for a moment. Aaron thought she wouldn't answer, but then she said something that chilled him. "Sometimes a mission is so dark, even the ones who survive don't come back." Aaron didn't speak. He couldn't. The whispers around Mira had always been cruel. But now, they were starting to feel like warnings, as if someone, or something, had made sure her truth stayed buried. But Aaron had seen too much now, and he had no intention of letting it go. Not when the quiet woman in rags had once carried something.
Heavier than metals, she had carried silence and maybe A secret that could shake the foundation of everything he thought he knew.
Some medals are not for honor. They are warnings from the past. Aaron couldn't forget what Mira had said. Sometimes a mission is so dark, even the ones who survive don't come back. Those words stayed in his head like an echo in an empty room. He kept wondering, what kind of mission does that to a soldier? And why was no one talking about it? One rainy afternoon, Aaron was helping clean the locker room. Most of the old soldiers had left for their daily checkups. Mira's locker was half open. He paused, his eyes catching a small glint of metal inside. He looked around. No one was there. Something pulled him toward it, not out of disrespect, but curiosity mixed with concern. Inside the locker was a cloth pouch. Wrapped in plastic, he gently opened it and found a broken medal. It was not a regular medal like the ones given for bravery or service. It was darker, made from a heavy metal and split in two, like someone had tried to destroy it. At the center of the medal was that same strange emblem. A circle, wings stretched wide and a number etched inside. Most of the number was scratched out, but part of it remained, 7X. Aaron had never seen anything like it in training. Not in books, not in briefings, not even in the restricted archives he had searched before. He touched the metal softly. It felt cold. Not just from the metal, but cold like a memory that was never meant to be touched again. Suddenly, a voice behind him. "Put it back." Aaron turned quickly. Mira stood at the doorway. She wasn't angry, but her eyes looked straight through him. "I'm sorry," Aaron said. Placing the medal back with care, Mira walked forward slowly, took the pouch, and sat on the bench nearby. She didn't ask him to leave. She didn't shout. Instead, she opened the pouch again and looked at the medal for a long time. "I didn't mean to snoop," Aaron said softly. I've been trying to understand." Mira nodded. "I know," she said. There was silence. Then finally, Mira spoke. "This medal was never supposed to exist," she said. "It was given to people who completed missions that never happened. Ghost missions." Aaron sat down next to her. "Like echo dust?" he asked. Mira's fingers tightened around the medal. "So you've heard the name?" "Only whispers," Aaron replied. Mira looked at the broken medal. "This was our badge, not of honor, but of silence," she said. "We were told if we returned alive, we'd carry the truth in our bones, not on paper. And if we didn't return, well, then we never existed." Aaron could hardly breathe. He had read about secret missions before, old war stories,
spy novels. But this was real. This was sitting beside him. How many of you went?
He asked. 7, Mira replied. "And how many came back?" "Just me," she said, her voice almost a whisper. She gently ran her finger over the scratched-out number. "This is what they do," she said. "When something becomes inconvenient, they erase it. Even if it's a person." Aaron felt something twist inside his chest. It wasn't just sadness, it was anger. How could a soldier who survived such horror be treated like trash? "Why haven't you told anyone?" he asked. "I tried," Mira said, "but when I came back, my report was burned. My name was changed in the system, my badge was taken, and my voice silenced. They said I was unstable, suffering from memory trauma, even though I remembered everything too clearly. Years passed, people moved on, and I became the woman in rags." Aaron sat in silence, stunned. Mira stood up slowly, still holding the broken medal. "I carry this not to remember," she said. "I carry it so I don't forget what they tried to bury." She walked toward her locker, placed the medal back carefully, and closed the door. Then she turned to Aaron. "You asked me once why I keep coming here," she said. "It's not just to help others, it's because I'm waiting." "For what?" He asked. "For the right eyes to see the truth," she replied. That night, Aaron didn't sleep. He looked up everything he could about Project Echo Dust again. Still no results. Still no files. It was like the operation never existed, but now he knew it had, because he had seen the medal. He had heard the pain in Mira's voice, and he had seen what was left behind. A soldier with no name, no story, and no honor. Aaron made a silent promise to himself. He would find someone who knew someone high enough to recognize the emblem, someone who could confirm that Mira was not a ghost, she was a survivor, and maybe a hero the world had tried to forget. Sometimes, it takes just one pair of eyes to see what others ignored for years. The military rehab center looked the same as always. The smell of antiseptic in the air. The slow shuffle of boots in the hallway. Laughter in some corners. Pain in others. Mira sat in her usual spot. On the bench, under the flickering light. Her jacket was zipped halfway, hiding the emblem. Her eyes calm, watching the movement around her like she had watched it 1,000 times before. But this day was different. That morning, a black car stopped outside the gate. An old man in full uniform stepped out. His medals shined, and his shoes were polished like mirrors, but his walk was slow, heavy. This was General Marcus Thorne, a decorated officer known for leading special operations in the past. He had come to visit. An old friend recovering inside the center. Soldiers saluted him. Nurses stood straighter. Everyone noticed when a man of his rank walked in. Everyone, except Mira. She didn't lift her head, didn't turn, didn't react at all. But General Thorne did. He walked through the hallway slowly, his eyes scanning the area. He passed rooms, nodded to staff, then, suddenly, he stopped. His eyes had landed on Mira. He stared first with confusion, then with recognition, and finally, with disbelief. She didn't look up. Not until he whispered her name. Mira? Her head turned, not fast, not slow, just enough for their eyes to meet. Aaron was standing nearby and saw the whole moment. He saw the general's face lose color. He saw Mira nod once, quietly, as if confirming a secret that had waited too long to be spoken aloud. "I thought you were dead," the general said softly. "So did they," Mira replied. He looked at the emblem on her jacket. His mouth opened slightly. Then he looked around and spoke firmly. "Private room now." Within minutes, they were inside one of the old meeting rooms. Aaron followed without being asked. Mira didn't stop him. Neither did the general once the door closed. Silence filled the room. General Thorne sat down slowly, his eyes never leaving Mira. "You were echo dust, weren't you?" he said, more a statement than a question. Mira nodded. "I was team lead," she replied. General Thorne ran a hand over his face. "I authorized that mission," he said. "I signed it under pressure. High Command wanted results fast. They told me no one came back. They lied," Mira said simply. The general looked at Aaron. "Does he know?" "He does now," Mira answered. Aaron felt like he was standing in the middle of history, a hidden chapter, a buried truth. And it was happening right in front of him. "I saw your emblem," the general said. "I hadn't seen one since 2010. There were only a few of those ever made, 7. Mira corrected. "Each one numbered and given to ghosts." The general nodded slowly. "Your file was sealed. I couldn't even access it again," he said. "They said you suffered trauma and disappeared." "I did suffer," Mira replied. "But I didn't disappear, I was erased." Aaron couldn't hold back. Why? Why erase someone who saved lives? The general sighed deeply. "Politics," he said. "The mission went outside the border. If it had gone public, it would have caused an international crisis. So they buried everything, including the people." Mira pulled out the broken medal from her pocket. The general's eyes widened. "You kept it," he whispered. "They tried to take it. I took it back," she said. There was a long pause, then slowly, the general stood up. He looked directly at Mira, and in a moment that made Aaron's chest tighten, the general saluted her, not as an officer to a lower rank, but as a man to someone he had wronged. "I failed you," he said. "You were never supposed to end up here." Like this. Mira stood slowly. She didn't return the salute, but she gave a slow nod. "That mission saved thousands, even if no one ever hears about it," she said. "But I hear it now," the general replied. "And I still carry enough weight to make some noise." He turned to Aaron's son. "Write everything she tells you. You may be the only witness history gets." Then he looked back at Mira. You may have been erased on paper, but not in my memory, and from today, not in theirs either. He left the room, his shoulders heavier than when he entered. Mira sat down again. For the first time, her face looked different, not proud, not sad. But Free Aaron opened his notebook. "Ready when you are," he said. Mira gave a small smile, then looked out the window. "Let's begin with the part they were too afraid to write," she said. Mira sat across from Aaron in the quiet room the general had left. The door was closed. The air felt heavy, like the past was pressing down on all sides. Aaron opened his notebook. His hand trembled slightly, but his eyes stayed on Mira. She reached into her jacket, pulled out the broken metal, and placed it gently on the table. Then she began to speak. The mission was called Echo Dust, she said. It wasn't on the map, it wasn't in the files, and it wasn't supposed to leave. Survivors. Aaron leaned forward. He didn't speak, he just listened. It started with an intercepted transmission. Someone had found a chemical formula in the mountains of Corval region, a small lab. Hidden by trees and lies, it was creating something that could kill thousands silently. No explosions, no noise, just silence and death. She paused. Her eyes focused on the past, not the room. We were told to go in at night. 7 of us. No backup, no air support. Only our team and the wind. Mira took a deep breath. We dropped in through the cliffs. The forest was too thick for satellites. That's why they sent us, the Echo team. We were trained for missions where technology failed, where the only tools we had were instinct and silence. Aaron nodded slowly. He had read about Black Ops units, but none this deep, this invisible. We found the lab on the 3rd night. It looked like a farmhouse from the outside, but underneath, it was a tunnel of nightmares. Her voice lowered. There were children in cages, scientists, in hazmat suits, and a vault filled with canisters. Each one labeled with red codes I had never seen. Before Aaron's eyes widened, "What did you do?" he asked. We moved quickly. Neutralized the guards, freed the kids, started collecting data from their systems. She looked away for a moment. Her jaw clenched, but someone betrayed us. They knew we were coming. One of the team, Ramirez, when he vanished on night 2. We thought he got separated. Now I think he was working for someone else. They triggered explosives, the lab began to collapse. I got the kids out, but the others... She stopped speaking. Her hands were shaking. "Only I made it out of the tunnel alive," she whispered. "Covered in blood, carrying a USB drive tied around my neck, and a little girl who couldn't stop crying." Aaron's heart pounded. He could see the pain on Mira's face, not just physical, but the kind of pain that lives deep and never leaves. I called for extraction. No one came. I walked 11 kilometers through the forest carrying that girl we drank from mud. We ate leaves. I kept us both alive for 3 days. When we finally reached the edge of friendly territory, I handed over the drive. I thought I'd done my job. Aaron blinked. And? They took the girl. They took the drive, they took my gear, and then they took my name. They said there was no record of Operation Echo Dust. They said I must have been hallucinating from stress, that no child had been found. No drive was recovered. Aaron slammed his notebook shut, unable to stay quiet. That's insane. They erased the mission. Mira nodded. They called me unstable, said I had battlefield trauma. I was dismissed. Not even dishonorably, just erased. And the medal? He asked. They gave it in secret. General Thorne sent it through an unknown officer. No name, no rank, just a package with the broken medal and a note. What did it say? Mira pulled out the folded paper. Aaron reached over and read the faded words. "Forgive me, you were never meant to be forgotten. MT. MT. Aaron whispered. Marcus Thorne. Mira nodded slowly. I kept the medal, but not for glory, for memory. She looked at him now. Fully present. I'm telling you this not for fame, not for pity, but because stories like mine are being buried every year, and someone needs to dig them up. Aaron reopened his notebook. His hands were still shaking, but now They moved with purpose, I'll write it, he said. I'll make sure people hear it even if I have to shout. Mira leaned back. Her face relaxed. Just a little. It's not about shouting, she said. It's about remembering what they wanted us to forget. And for the first time in years, Mira felt like her story was finally beginning, not ending. Some emblems give rank, some give honor, but the rarest ones carry silence. And scars no one can see. Aaron held Mira's broken metal in his hands. He turned it slowly, the symbol still gave him chills, a circle with wide wings. And the faded number, 07X, scratched but not forgotten. He sat with Mira under the tree outside the rehab center. The sun was setting, and the orange sky made everything feel softer, but not lighter. I still don't understand, Aaron said. What is this emblem, really? Mira looked out at the fading sky, then she spoke. Long ago, the military created a level above Black Ops, she said. Even Black Ops have files, even spies have names, but this, Echo. Division was something different, Aaron's eyebrows raised. I thought Echo Dust was just one secret mission. No, Mira said. It was one of many. And all those missions were under the same shadow, Echo Division. They didn't exist on paper. Their missions weren't recorded. Even the generals barely knew, only a few names, only a few badges. Aaron looked down at the medal. This emblem. It wasn't a medal, Mira said, it was a warning. Anyone who wore this, she continued, was a ghost with a gun, a soldier who had no backup, no rescue, no recognition, just a target and silence. Aaron leaned forward. Who created it? Mira looked away. No one knows for sure. Some say it was built by a hidden council inside the intelligence system. People who didn't wear uniforms but pulled all the strings. There were only a few of us, each given a number. I was 07X. The X meant my identity was not to be traced. Even in emergency protocols, Aaron wrote quickly in his notebook. But why keep it a secret after the mission was over? Because we saw too much, Mira said quietly. Echo Dust wasn't just about destroying a lab, it was about cleaning something the government had helped create. Aaron stopped writing. What? Mira's eyes darkened. That lab in Corville. It wasn't just discovered, it was funded by allies, by people in power. And when it started leaking too much, they needed someone to burn it quietly. That's why we were chosen. We were the cleaners, the silencers, the ones who could complete a mission and disappear forever. Aaron stared at the emblem again. So small yet carrying so much weight. Have you ever met anyone else with this? He asked. Only once, Mira said. In a recovery base in Kazakhstan, a woman named Leela, 05B. She lost her arm but kept her memory. What happened to her? She vanished 6 months later, no records, no trace, gone. Aaron's chest tightened. Do you think someone is still watching you? Mira looked at him, then at the windows of the rehab center. I used to think they forgot me. Now I wonder if they just waited long enough for the world to forget. Suddenly, Mira pulled something from her boot, a small metal tag, not like a dog tag. This one had no name, only a number, D47X07X. This, she said, was embedded in my gear. It links me to the Echo Division. But if scanned, it says non-existent asset. Aaron was speechless. She placed the tag in his hand. Why give this to me? He asked. Because if something happens to me, you'll have the only proof left. Aaron nodded slowly. I'll protect it and I'll tell your story. Mira gave a weak smile. I don't need fame, but I need truth, even if it's whispered, even if it's one person at a time. As the sky turned darker, a car parked quietly near the rehab entrance. Inside, 2 men in suits sat. Watching through tinted windows, one of them wrote something on a pad, then spoke into a radio. Echo Subject 07X. Still active contact with civilian confirmed. They drove off without a sound. Back under the tree, Aaron was packing his notes. He had already started a document titled Echo Division, The Hidden War. He didn't know how far he could go, but he knew he had to try. Mira stood slowly, her eyes scanning the area like a soldier. Again, she could feel something shifting, something coming closer, but she didn't run. She had run enough in the past. Now she was going to face it, and for the first time she wouldn't be alone. The story was no longer silent. Aaron had done what no one else dared. He had published Mira's report, a full document with her words, her past, and a scan of the emblem from the broken metal. He didn't upload it online. He sent it to someone he trusted, a retired military journalist named Elena Cross. She had once exposed a chemical cover-up in 2014. She knew how to handle the truth. When it was dangerous, when Elena read the file, she didn't speak for a long time, then she whispered, "They're going to hate this," but she published it anyway. The article was titled, "The Soldier They Erased, the Secret Badge of Echo Division." Within 48 hours, the news spread like wildfire. It didn't reach the public news channels, not yet, but it lit up private networks, whistleblower forums, and high-ranking inboxes. The emblem, once invisible, now sat on military discussion boards, and Mira's photo, taken quietly by Aaron, was being shared between officers who once thought she was dead. Then the call came. It wasn't a warning, it wasn't a threat. It was an invitation from the Office of National Integrity. Mira was asked to appear for a closed door hearing, not as a witness, not as a criminal, but as a key figure in a previously unacknowledged covert mission. For the first time in years, her name was printed in full on a government letter. Mira Callan, Echo Division Operative, status unknown. Now, recovered Aaron stood beside her the day she walked into that quiet, windowless room. No cameras, no applause, just suits and silence. The general was there too. Thorne had used every favor, every connection, every bit of respect he still had to get her story seen, not erased again. One of the officials leaned forward. "You claim you were part of Operation Echo Dust." "I don't claim it," Mira said. "I survived it." The questions kept coming about the lab, the girl she rescued, the USB drive. Mira answered what she could. She stayed calm. She stayed honest, and she made one thing clear: she didn't want revenge. "I just want my name back," she said. Hours passed. When she walked out of the room, her face was calm, but I could see it. Something inside her had shifted that evening. The official statement was released. It didn't mention Echo Division by name, but it said, "A former operative involved in an unrecorded strategic mission has been identified. Her actions prevented the spread of unauthorized chemical weapons in 2013. Due to operational security, further details will not be disclosed. However, her service is hereby acknowledged with respect. No medals, no press conference." But to Mira, it was enough. The next week, she was invited to a quiet ceremony inside the Valor Wing of the Defense Hall. Only a few attended: Aaron, General Thorne, Elena Cross, and a dozen officers who had once walked past her like she was invisible. They stood now. They saluted as she entered. She wore her jacket, but this time, the broken metal was pinned clearly on her chest. A young officer stepped forward. He held out a new badge. Polished, unbroken. The same emblem. But this one had her number clear and untouched, U7X. He placed it in her hand and said one sentence that made her eyes fill for the first time in years. "Welcome home, soldier." Mira didn't speak. She just nodded, because if she spoke, the weight of emotion would break through. She looked at Aaron. He smiled. She looked at General Thorne. He gave a slow nod. But not everything was safe. Later that night, a black car drove past the rehab center. Inside, the same suited men spoke into headsets. Subject: Mira Callan, now visible to the public. Cover status compromised. New directive needed. The next morning, Mira found a folded note in her locker. No name, no stamp. Just a sentence written in shaky black ink. "They don't erase legends, and they recruit them." Mira held the note, then laughed quietly for the first time in a long time. Because even if shadows were returning, she was no longer walking alone. She had Aaron. She had the truth. And now she had her name.